For over 15 years, Saturdays and Illegal Curve have been synonymous with one another. With insight, analysis, and interviews regarding the Winnipeg Jets, the Manitoba Moose, and all around the NHL, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Alrighty, folks, let's do this thing. 3 shows in the next 32 hours. It starts now. As I say, good morning, Winnipeg. Good morning, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this morning on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good morning, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the start of a marathon of programming for you from now until later tomorrow evening, as the Jets, of course, play a back-to-back afternoon doubleheader, the Avalanche in town in about 6 hours' time, and then tomorrow afternoon against the St. Louis Blues. It ought to be a good one that we're here for you. We're locked in. We're ready to go. 3 shows, 32 hours. Let's get things going. Dave M., Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Gentlemen, great to see you on this Saturday morning.
Yeah, boys, who needs a life, right? Like, we just need to do
life.
a Legal Curve all day, all night, right? So, yeah, we're pumped up. A couple afternoon games. Actually, 2 weeks in a row where we're going to have afternoon games, because next week the Jets are on the road, and we have some more afternoon games against Pittsburgh and the Rangers, I believe.
Correct.
Right?
That's right.
So go out east, even though Dave knows I like to go out west.
You're right about that, Ezzy. That'll be 3 shows in the span. That'll even be 3 shows in the span of like 28 hours or something like along those lines. Given because those start times are even earlier than the start times this weekend. Those start times next weekend are noon Central and 11 a.m. Central. So that's going to make for a little bit of another more condensed schedule. The players talk about their condensed schedule. Who cares about their condensed schedule? What about our condensed schedule, Dave?
Exactly. Well, sorry, Dave, before you get in here, I was joking that it reminded me of the radio days, because for those who used to listen to us on the radio, when there was an 11 o'clock start, we were always, what was it, 5 hours before the game started, Drew? 6?
Yeah.
So if there was a 12 o'clock start, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show started at 6 in the morning. So anyways, Dave, just wanted to get that in there.
There was no post-game show back then for us. That's the only difference, is now that we do the double duty with the Saturday morning Illegal Curve Hockey Show and then the Saturday night, or the post-game show, whenever that may be, the afternoon post-game shows this weekend and next weekend, Dave.
This is an important weekend, folks. This is really, and look, you're just playing the number 1 team in the NHL. A team that is just absolutely red hot. I was looking at the Avs when I was writing my pregame report, and I was like, okay, yeah, they're good. I was like, oh, wait a second. They've scored more goals than anyone in the NHL. And oh, wait a second. They've also given up the least amount of goals. Their goal differential is plus 86.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing a team that is just a juggernaut. And then, oh, by the way, you're like, oh, the St. Louis Blues, they're not very good. Oh, wait a second. They've been one of the hottest teams since the Olympic break. So they continue to win much, I would imagine, to the chagrin of their fan base, who were probably hoping that the ethical tank was going to be in their favor as well. So a very important weekend. We will be able to, I would suspect, Drew, the Jets now find themselves 7 points back of the LA Kings, who now hold the final wild card spot. So I would imagine that this weekend will be very illuminating for the remainder of our Jets talk. I think there's 17 games after this, like with these 2 games left?
Yeah, so there's 18 left, so 16 after this weekend. 16
after this weekend. And again, we'll, I suspect, be able to have a much more substantive conversation ahead of the Tuesday game against Nashville, boys.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's, mathematically right now the Jets playoff odds are 4%. Their odds of getting the first overall pick are actually better. Their odds at getting first overall are 7.4%. That's according to our good friends at Money Puck providing that information. That's where I wanted to ask you guys about that. Because and we all know that, yeah, we're going to play it out and they're not mathematically eliminated until they're mathematically eliminated. So we're not going, but we are from the start, since the tailspin this team went into, we've been honest about, the odds of making the playoffs for this team are very thin, and that's putting it charitably. My question for you guys, and it's one that I've been thinking about for the last, day or so, is focusing on next year and how this isn't going to be replicated next year. And you look at the Jets lineup and you look at, the career years that some guys have been having, Scheifele, Connor, terrific seasons all around, Velarde. And then you look at, that next year, it's entirely possible, given that they're another year older, they might regress a little bit. And then, but on the flip side, some of the guys who've been having down years, Lowry, Perfetti, Nemesnikov, and Niederreiter, maybe they have a slightly better year next year than this year. But at the same time, they're also another year older, and maybe this is just the start of the downward turn of their careers. So I go to the first overall pick, not the first overall pick, pardon me, the first round pick that the Winnipeg Jets have. And I ask you guys this. How high does that pick have to be for the Jets to say there's no way we're trading it, within reason, of course, but that we're not trading this first round pick? How high after the draft lottery is complete does it have to be for the Jets to say, no, we are for sure keeping that pick? So right now, the Jets are 6th from the bottom in the NHL, which means they could move up. If they won the lottery, they could move down if the ball doesn't bounce their way. So I'll start with that to you, Ezzy. Does the pick have to be top 5 for the Jets to say for sure we're holding on to it? At what point in time do the Jets have to consider trading that pick? How low does it have to fall for the Jets to consider trading that pick to improve the team for next year and beyond for the foreseeable future, given the timelines that this core is at?
I would say top 3 for me, top 3, top 5, because I think in that range, you're probably going to get a player that maybe not a player that steps into the lineup for the 26-27 season, but certainly a player that could step into the lineup for the 27-28 season, right? So I would say top 3, top 5. And it's interesting, Drew, because I've been thinking about this a lot too. And, we've had these conversations over the last few months, certainly over the last few weeks, about, especially leading up to the trade deadline, about, how can the Jets acquire a second line center, right? And, my argument has been, unless you're trading, Cole Perfetti is the only guy that I think would be an option. And I want to, preface this by saying, I don't think that the Jets should trade Perfetti. I'm not saying that. I like Perfetti, but I think aside from him, I don't know who else you're trading to acquire a second line center. Maybe a defenseman too, right? Like if you're willing to move a Dylan DeMello or a Neil Pionk, like you're going to have to give something up significant to acquire a second line center. And that's why you ask about the first round pick, right, Drew? Because that is one of the biggest assets. That's one of the biggest.
I think it's the only asset. I mean, within reason. Not that the Jets are going to be trading Hellebuck or Scheifele or guys of that nature. I mean, I just don't know how you improve next year. And I'm talking about next year, on its face. This roster, I don't know where that improvement, so that this isn't a replication of next season, comes from. That's my problem. And that's the most appealing asset that I think the Jets have, is that first round pick, wherever it falls at the upcoming 26 NHL draft.
Yeah, and Dave, I want you to get in here, but the main reason why I think that first round pick has to be in play, to your point, Drew, is because this Jets team is a win now team.
Right.
Regardless of what anybody thinks about this team. And that's why, I think the tank stuff is ridiculous, because, losing is not tanking. I'll say it again, right? Like the Jets are not tanking. The Vancouver Canucks are tanking. Mm-hmm. The Calgary Flames are tanking. Right. I just wanted to make that distinction. Like this Jets team is still going to, as until they're mathematically eliminated, Dave, this team is going to go for it. But more importantly, next year and the year after and the year after, this is a win now team. So yes, do the Jets need a top prospect in their system? I get that. But you also need to address your second line, which right now is basically, just a mishmash of players, right? Cole Perfetti needs a second line center to play with, right? So that's why I think that first round pick has to be something that Chevy's thinking of moving prior to the draft.
So same question back to you, Dave. How, when that pick is at slot 3 and higher, what number and higher is it off the table for consideration as part of a move?
Well, I mean, look, if you're getting Gavin McKenna or Ivor Stenberg, I mean, especially with all the Swedish players that are in this system, I mean, how could you not draft a player like that? But I look, if you can have a guy who's going to come in and make an immediate impact on your lineup, then you're obviously not trading that player, because you're going to pick a generational, in theory, player who is going to have an immediate impact. As he's absolutely right. This team, I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't have an easy job in the sense that he has to think about now and he has to think about the future. But for right now, if he's looking at his team and he's thinking, I can add a player who will have an immediate impact, like one of those guys. I mean, Keaton Vierhoff, presumably he went to see. He's a 6'4" defenseman. So, I mean, you don't think he's going for him. But like I said, it is a tough situation because that sort of infusion, presumably a top 3. I mean, you got to remember, right? The draft is a crapshoot. Cole Perfetti was a top 5 pick, or seen as probably around the 5th overall spot that fell to the Jets at 10. Brad Lambert was the guy who for a while was in the top 5 of his draft class in 2022 and fell to the Jets at 30. So it is a bit of a gamble, right? And there are guys who finish in that top 5 or who are picked in the top 5 who never, really meet their destiny, if you will, in terms of, or their presumed destiny in terms of what they're able to do in the NHL. So the cautionary tale, and I agree with you, Drew. I mean, if this team can somehow pry a second line center, something they need desperately. I mean, how many years again? Like I said, I feel like a broken record, but that's all we've talked about. And will Braden Yager eventually be able to get there? He might, but it's not next year. And so that's your concern, is that your timelines are not aligning. So where your core needs to be in win now mode, and they're not, because you're having these gaps in what you need, right? So you have a gap in second line center. You have a gap, in my estimation, in top pairing right side defenseman. So those are your 2 biggest gaps. But I was talking about that last year to a degree. I was talking about it a lot this year, not just me, but all of us. And I just look at it and I think to myself, like, yeah, you can trade that pick if you can acquire someone who is going to fit the term requirements of your organization and fit the need. So, like I said, it's great to have a draft pick who has potential. But for me, if you have a guy who is going to fit that timeline, you kind of have to marry those 2 things together, because ultimately you have Connor Hellebuck still in his prime. You have Scheifele and Connor, who you just signed. You've got Velarde, who you just signed. You've got, Morrissey still for a couple more years.
Pionk, you just signed.
Pionk, you just signed. So I'm just saying that for me, that you don't have to, you can't look at it and say, well, this is going to impact us in 5 years. It's kind of like when they signed Blake Wheeler, guys, right? And we looked at that contract and we said, well, that contract might look a little, you might have to hold your nose at the end of that contract. But if you win a Stanley Cup with Blake Wheeler under that deal, you're not going to be too upset about it. And it's the truth. If the Jets would have gone on and won a Stanley Cup, no one was going to say that the last 2 years of the Blake Wheeler deal weren't ideal. So similarly, I think that this Jets team needs to look at it. I mean, like I said, so to answer your question, that was a roundabout way of answering your question, Drew.
That's okay.
But I was trying to give a fulsome answer, but I would say that the answer for me would be at least top 2, maybe top 3. And then after that, but again, I'm not going to pretend to be a draft expert, Ezzy.
No, but we don't have to be draft experts, right? Because I think you make a lot of good points, right? Like, the Jets desperately need to fill a void on the second line. Like that, I think, to everybody. I agree with you, Dave. Like, when you're talking about the defense, I think the defense definitely needs a little bit of retooling. I think you're going to have a similar group to last year, right? Like, I don't know how a guy like Jacob Bryson fits in to that, by the way, because he's a free agent. But I think at best he's a 6'7" defenseman. But for the most part, it's going to be, you're going to run it back with Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk,
5 of your 6 defensemen,
Salamonson.
5 of your 6 D for next year are basically locked in.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, to me, Chevy's focus, I'm not saying that, bringing in a top pairing defenseman wouldn't be great, but again, how the Jets have never done that. So I don't necessarily
see second line center solve all your problems.
No, of course not.
Well, but I mean, how many of it does it solve? Are you sure it doesn't? I mean,
not all of them, because the reality is, Drew, they've got a little bit of work to do in the bottom 6 as well, right? Because we know there's going to be some turnover. Like Gus Nyquist, for example, I don't think he's coming back, right? So,
but those are minor problems in comparison to the second line center problem.
No, absolutely. You're 100% right, Drew. Like, second line center is like, if Chevy has a bit, like, I assume he has a whiteboard or something in his office. Like second line
I hope
centers.
it's not like a projector, like the old school in school when you were in elementary school, the
man.
teacher would write it on a projector, and
then they would roll up that clear,
exactly that clear projector film. I hope they're not using that at in the downtown rink in the scouting department.
No, I think when I was in university they were still using those. That shows you how old I am. Yeah. But I mean, I think second line center, like Dave's right. Basically, this has been a problem since the Jets acquired Sean Monahan. Like I realize it really all started back in 2018 when they acquired Paul Stastny because they needed an upgrade over Brian Little. But this has existed since they acquired Sean Monahan at the trade deadline, right? Mm-hmm. So the first round pick, I think, has to be considered. I'm not saying, I'm not going to say the Jets have to trade it, obviously, but you would think that that's the big ace in the hole, right? That Chevy has to move. And that's not, and it's going to take more than that, by the way. We don't even know. Look, the free agent class this year, guys, this should be mentioned, is not very good. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to go through, 31 other teams and see who's even a trade option for the Jets, right, guys? But I think the first round
has to be a team, though. I mean, logically, it's got to be a team that is interested in, that is, on the downturn and interested in acquiring younger players for older. You see the problem, the Jets are really trying to find a needle in a haystack is the problem where they're at. Because most players who are available in a trade are generally a little bit longer in the tooth and maybe as a result don't have very many years left under their current contract. Well, you can't trade a guy who, a first round pick who you're going to have under team control for the next 8 years for a guy that might leave you in 2 or 3 years. It's just, yet that's what the Jets almost are going to, not have to accept, but trying to thread that needle to try and find that player. I mean, it's a very difficult situation that the Jets find themselves in. And to further it, the top draft picks in this upcoming class, there's some really talented players, don't get me wrong, but none of them are the centermen. The top rated centermen, according to, who is this? I got Corey Pronman's latest rankings up, and Corey does great work for The Athletic, and his top ranked centerman doesn't come in until number 9, Tynan Lawrence, out of New Brunswick. He plays at Boston University now. So,
you can go watch Drew. You can go watch him and Sasha Boumediene play together.
Sure, there you go. I'll go take. We go take an illegal curve road trip to Boston University and watch him play in the upcoming NCAA playoffs. But a top 10 pick, yes, looks like he could be right. He could be available to the Jets, wherever they pick. Mm-hmm. But there's also no guarantee that a player of that age, he's not slated to be a superstar that steps in and is able to dominate like Matthew Schaefer in his rookie season or anything like that. He's going to require all the centermen who are, towards the top of the draft are going to require some amount of seasoning. And unfortunately for the Jets is they can't really afford too much seasoning given where they are with everybody else on their roster and their need to be in a win now sort of situation. It's not an easy solution that the Jets find themselves in. And that's why I think the trade, which is why I sort of started this conversation, I think that's why the trade prospect of that first round pick has to be a strong consideration.
Okay, how about this, boys? Let's say the Jets, Chevy, the first round pick for this year, is in play. What else do you have to give up to get Shane Wright out of Seattle?
I don't know if you have to give up.
Oh, I don't think you're giving up your first round pick.
I don't think you are either. He's a diminished asset. It's like people trading their first round pick for Cole Perfetti, who's a diminished asset right now. Yeah,
but the thing with Shane Wright is he's still 23 years old,
right?
And I think he's got an upside. Like you guys think that first round pick is too much?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
I agree. I think it's too much because.
Well, what would you have to give up for Shane Wright? Do you think then?
Well,
I don't think that is too much.
Well, but Ezzy, he hasn't done it at the NHL level to the point that you need him to do so, to give up what, again, every first round pick is a shiny toy that everybody can manifest in their brains that it's going to turn into a superstar. And to some extent, do they overrate first round picks or overvalue first round picks? Maybe, but that's the reality of the situation. The NFL to some extent is willing to trade first round picks more so for established veteran players. Look what Baltimore was about to trade for Max Crosby from the Raiders before they got cold feet. They were going to trade 2 first-round picks for an established player. Look what Sean McVay and the LA Rams have been saying for years, is they've been saying F them picks. They don't care about first-round picks. The NHL doesn't have that same level of minimizing with regard to their first-round picks. But, I mean, so you have a much more cautious league that you're trying to trade within to acquire a player that's going to fill a void for you. And I asked the question not that long ago, does a surefire, bona fide number 2 center or 1B center solve a lot of the problems for the Winnipeg Jets? I really, truly think it does, because then it pushes everybody back in their lineup, and all of a sudden those third and fourth lines look a lot more palatable when they're being played by upper echelon third and fourth lines, as opposed to now and this year where those guys are filling slots way higher in their lineup than they need to. I mean, I just don't see. I don't want to be here next year. I do want to be here.
End the show. End the show, Jazzy.
I don't want to be here next year having the same conversation about the Winnipeg Jets because they haven't been able to fill the holes that have been so glaringly obvious that they've been for the last number of years. That's the problem that I think the Winnipeg Jets find themselves in, is the problem is obvious, but they don't have any solution to fixing the problem.
The reason why I brought up Shane Wright is because I think that type of player at that age, around that age, I think might be who the Jets have to target, right? Because you mentioned earlier, Drew, looking for a second line center via trade is kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack, right? That's what you said.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, because you look through the NHL, and again, I haven't done a deep dive, guys, for all the other 31 teams and gone through who could be an option for like a realistic option. Like, for example, I'm a Devils fan. The Devils aren't getting Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier, the top 2 centers for the Devils.
Of course not.
I mean,
that's what every team wants. Why would the Devils trade those guys?
Well, exactly. So what I'm saying is, like, if you go, through the teams, I think it's not obvious who a trade target could be for the Jets, aside from maybe Robert Thomas, who we've talked about, who could be available from the St. Louis Blues, right? But I think you might have to look at take a little bit of a risk. Like, isn't this, like, shouldn't everything be on the table right now for the Jets to acquire a second line center? Like, Shane Wright, he's not having a great year. He had 44 points last year in his rookie year. Like, I still think there's a lot of untapped potential. I also think there's a lot of untapped potential with Cole Perfetti. So I think, people call them distressed assets. Okay, fine. But I still think that these players, their best years are to come. They're very young players when you're talking Shane Wright or Cole Perfetti. So I'm not sitting here, Drew, saying the Jets must acquire Shane Wright. He's my favorite hockey player. I'm just saying, like, a player like that might be somebody who the Jets consider, Dave, making a move for.
Yeah, and like I said, we all presume that the Jets are going to go for a forward talent wherever they end up drafting, right, guys? But I mean, this Keaton Verhoff, who we presume, after the trade deadline, that Kevin Cheveldayoff was going to look at UND, boys. Sure. I mean, he's a right shot guy from Saskatchewan, and he's considered, again, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a draft expert. I just read what the draft experts write about a guy like that. And they've said he's described as a generational defensive prospect. So, I mean,
a big, strong right side defenseman.
6'4", big and strong, prairie kid, could play on the right side and be a top pairing guy. Eventually, that's the problem, though. Eventually, so you've got a bit of an issue there. But I mean, isn't that what this Jets team has needed for? How long have I been talking about getting a Mackenzie Weegar type? Now, again, you're in a bit of a situation that you're having to wait a little bit of time for that player. But like I said, it's just, for me,
he's Colton Parayko. That's who Keaton Verhoff. I mean, largely
easy, Drew.
Consider him. Well, but I mean, that's who, if he develops out to, that's who you're talking about, a 6'4", 6'5" right side defenseman
who could be paired with Morrissey. I mean,
who's strong in his own zone, and he's got some offensive upside to him. Yeah. Not Matthew Schaefer dominant offensive upside, but a guy that you can put.
Scored 6 goals. Still has 6 goals and 14 assists, I think, for UND, which isn't
which is
nothing to turn your nose up at.
Those are good numbers for a defenseman in college.
In college.
I mean, that's who you're projecting out to be there. But a guy like that. I mean, I'm
just saying that, that would be a guy who could, in theory, transform your defensive core, right, boys? And then you have a Sandberg and and Salamonson pairing. You have Pionk and insert
Does
whoever
it solve your problems, Dave.
No. Again, I'll be honest with you, Drew. I think if this team is better defensively, it does to a degree solve your problems. But no, I mean, obviously it doesn't. I mean, ultimately, look, we've seen teams take risks. Maybe you throw Braden Yager in next year. You say, okay, kid, here's your chance. You have 9 goals in the AHL this year. Maybe you say to him, okay, we don't really have a choice. We're going to give this kid a shot. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that, like I said, I'm on record of saying I think Yager's at least a year away, but I'm just saying to you that maybe there's a risk there, or a willingness to take that risk.
What percentage chance is Vlad Nemesnikov the second line center next season at the start of the year?
Oh, it's low.
Whoa.
I think you're like less than 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be. You can't. I mean, based on the way Nemesnikov is, Nemesnikov has not had a good year. Everybody knows that. It's less. I'm going to say 0%.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are, and you got. I mean, I appreciate your answers. I'm not as confident that it's that low, because I don't have as much confidence in the front office finding a solution to this problem. I mean, you talked about the guys who are potential options at the AHL level, Dave. That would require a big step forward this offseason in their development. Would you agree with that? That you just said yourself that they're not ready to step in, largely based on your evaluation from what you can see today, which isn't the same thing that you're necessarily going to see in September, but it doesn't seem likely that they're going to be able to step into that significant of a role for the Jets.
By the way, just so you know, and for the folks listening to the podcast, the professor Andrew Hileko comes in at, hold on, I'm going to put it up on the chat on the thing. He's at 0%. So he's with Ezzy.
Yeah.
But then Chris Smith, he goes to the other end of the spectrum, and he's more aligned with you, Drew, 75%. So even the chat is saying that there are some vague differences in their assessments as to what the Jets will do.
If Vlad Nemesnikov is the second line center for the Jets next year, they are not going to be a very good team.
Well, I mean, I think, yes, I would agree with your comment there, Ezzy, but that's the problem is that, again, it's been years that they've been trying to solve this dilemma and have failed to solve it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So why should we expect that they're necessarily going to be able to solve it this offseason? I mean, is it because it's become such a glaring issue, way more of a glaring issue than in past, and that's why it needs to be solved this year, and they can't kick the can? I know they say all the good things about trying to solve the problem, trying to acquire players. We take phone calls, we make phone calls, we have multiple phone lines, different phone plans, talk all you can want.
Different types of phones, rotary dial
data,
phones.
Everything along those lines. It just continues to be the ongoing issue that the Winnipeg Jets face. Let's welcome to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, TSN Winnipeg Bureau Reporter. Are you Bureau Chief? Can we call you Bureau Chief, Danielle?
You know what? I think they used to all be called Bureau Chiefs, like back in the day, and we need to bring it back because it sounds pretty elite.
Yes.
You need a chief of staff if you're a bureau chief. You need,
she's got one, Freddie.
You got Freddie. That's true. Freddie can be your chief of staff, but you should get piped into a room if you're a bureau chief, something like that. Real dignified sort of role in that case.
Danielle,
you're making my Saturday feel like I'm on top of the world right now.
Well, anybody that comes and joins us this early on a Saturday morning, we like to pump their tires a little bit. So that's the price we pay for getting this kind of quality guest on a Saturday morning. Good morning, Danielle. Nice to see you. You
too, guys. How's life?
Life is great. Good. We're talking about the second line center for the Winnipeg Jets. Can you imagine that? Nobody ever talks about the second line center for the Winnipeg Jets.
It seems like, I came into it this year, right? And I'm like, guys, teach me everything I need to know. Tell me what this team needs, what's up. And every single person I've talked to, that's the main point. Sarah Orleski was talking to me before my first trade center, and she's like, well, Danielle, I'd say the last, handful of years, it's always the same points on Trade Center. I was dying laughing because that is just got to be the number one issue, eh?
It continues to be year after year after year and after year. It's the issue. And we were just talking about it, vis-a-vis the upcoming draft, because, it's relatively apparent that the Jets are unlikely to be a playoff team. So the question I posed to Dave and Ezzy is really about, do you consider how high, wherever the Jets slot in that first round, how high do you have to slot to not consider trading that first round pick if you can find a surefire problem for your second line center dilemma?
That's a great question. That's tough because one thing I've learned about the Jets is that like they're no matter what, they're not tanking, like I'm not sure how management and or the organization feels, but obviously like they always go 0 to 100 as much as they possibly can. So it's not like they're going for a high pick right now, obviously, as to what we've seen. I think maybe first 10, first 12. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Because we're sitting here and we're trying to figure out how the Jets can get that second line center.
Yeah.
Danielle, we're trying to manifest a second line center for the Jets right now.
and the problem boils down to, first of all, it's hard to acquire second line centers in the best of times.
Yeah.
And the Jets, I don't know that they have anybody on their active roster that they're really willing to consider trading that's going to return that kind of high level. The players that they've drafted previously are probably a year away at least from being able to step in there. So it sort of defaults to the only exciting, really exciting unknown asset that you have, which is that top pick. And it's, we were sort of a little even more aggressive in our evaluation. We're saying, maybe top 3, top 5, you hold on to it. But if it's in that 5 to 10 range, it might be something you have to consider if it gets back that surefire answer for your second line center dilemma.
I think it's an interesting topic because at the end of the day, the core is getting older, which I'm sure you guys have talked about. Like the core is getting older. Last season was a great example of like, okay, we're close, like we had injured players in that first round, we could probably make it further. And then they come out in this season and it's just a bit of a dud. I feel like that was a big wake-up call to show that you can't just have Band-Aid solutions, and finding the second line center is going to be tough. Like you said, no draft picks or prospects right now are going to fill that void for sure. And there's been good signs like Rosanne coming in, good signs in terms of him and his level of play, just to be a top forward on the team. But still, I don't see him being that driving second line person at this point. So I do think that, again, picks are not as important in my eyes as getting someone now.
That leads nicely into my question, because I was going to ask you about Rosanne. And thank you, by the way, Danielle, for putting out the pronunciation, because I think since he was drafted, we're just calling him Isaac Rosen. And then he obviously had for those who speak French, the accent aigu on the Rosanne, right? So I appreciate that, because I actually was just like practicing in front of the mirror for like an hour, like just how to pronounce his name, because it's not very easy. But
I love that.
Yeah. What has been your like initial opinion of Rosanne? Because I agree with you. I think it's unrealistic to expect him to, fix all the Jets' problems on the second line, but certainly, and Danielle, you've only been here for 1 year in Winnipeg, but wearing that 27 jersey, he reminds a lot of folks in this town of Nikolai Ehlers. Yeah,
that's been a hilarious topic. And I love watching reporters ask him about that, because he's definitely out to lunch on that aspect. He's like, oh, yeah? Oh, really? But I was talking to a few media just saying that I was actually the lucky one in this scenario, because I worked the last 3 seasons in the American League in Toronto. So he came through very, very often, and I was able to catch a number of his games, and he obviously dominated. You guys will laugh at this, the Marlies were in town recently, and I was chatting to some of their staff, just catching up, because they were my old co-workers, and they were like, thank God Isaac Rosanne is out of our division. They said he is a Marlies killer. And it's true. Like anytime he would roll through town, he would dominate. Like he was on the scoreboard no matter what. And so I did get to see him in that aspect. And the skill is there. The skill is really, really strong. But when I would talk to some of his coaches, the situation was like, they need to see the consistent effort on a day-to-day basis. And that's what's going to earn you call-ups and spots in Buffalo. And we all know like there was a bit of a logjam in Buffalo. So there wasn't as much opportunity. So him coming here and getting higher minutes, like him and I actually the other day talked about the transition. And when you're a skilled player in the AHL, it's really tough sometimes to transition because a lot of the times you're being brought in as like a fourth line player, you're getting 7 minutes a night, and it's really not the role that you're used to playing in the AHL. Some players do adjust and adapt their game, but Rosanne told me that like he really doesn't do well in a fourth line role or a role that's a more checking role. Like he knows what his strengths are. And so for him to come in to Winnipeg and be kind of given that opportunity right off the bat to kind of play to his strengths, I think he'll really flourish here. And I really think that he has what it takes to kind of be on that second line and be a good force. Again, not sure about driving the second line and being what they need to kind of get that offense going on a consistent basis. But so far, I think it was a great trade, and I'm really happy to see him here.
Well, let's go from one Swede to another, Danielle. The one guy who was a topic of conversation yesterday with us at Hockey for All Center, Elias Salamonson. So
Yes.
how have you seen his sort of opportunity and him seizing the opportunity? And that's kind of been the focus is, while it's not been an ideal year, one of the positives has been with Salamonson.
He's been amazing. Honestly, he's been someone that I've tried to watch a lot closely, like these last few games. And just seeing him wanting to take shots at any opportunity, like that really makes me so happy because you come in, you're probably so nervous. And he's a bit more of a reserved type of guy, as we've seen, at least outwardly, right, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
He admitted he came in, definitely had some nerves and definitely was thinking like, okay, here we go. Like, this is my chance. But I think especially him knowing, Stanley and Shen are out of the mix. Him knowing that this rest of the season, like he can just settle in. I feel like we've seen that so much. And he's been so strong. Like there's been not a lot of moments, Dave, where I've been like, oh, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, because the eyes are on those guys to really make an impression. And sometimes mistakes are a lot more highlighted on those new guys and, they can feel it, but he's been so incredible. I love the shot first mentality and you can see the confidence building in him.
Danielle Bain from TSN is our guest Saturday morning. This is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. The Jets and the Avs later this afternoon, then the Jets and the Blues again tomorrow afternoon. Doubleheader of Jets action coming your way on TSN 3, I might add to that effect. Danielle, as the season has unfolded, obviously not the way that the Jets wanted it to unfold, but how would you say that Scott Arniel's demeanor maybe has changed from the optimistic times in October to the resignation times of mid-March?
Listen, first thing I want to say is I don't wish being an NHL coach on my worst enemy. I always think about how these people actually put themselves in this position. And I have so much respect for anyone that is an NHL or high-level hockey coach because it is so hard. And I just want to start off by saying that. But Scott lately has definitely looked exasperated, a little bit frustrated. And I can see why. Like one quote really stood out to me the last game after the game. I forget the exact question, but like Sean Reynolds asked something and he said, "It's been said."
About the slow starts to the period, I think.
Yes, exactly. He said, "It's been said." And it kind of just was like, man, he's tried everything that he can in terms of, talking. Again, I know there's all these talk about lineups and, why he's never split up Connor and Scheifele and why this and why that. Like we can always ask those questions, but there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes that we don't really know about. So, I mean, he definitely has gone from that really optimistic kind of energy, and he still shows that sometimes. Like he still is pretty upbeat a good amount of the time, but man, he looks exhausted in terms of trying as much as he can and saying as many things as he can to get the team going.
Danielle, I wanted to ask you about Gabe Vilardi because he obviously just scored his 25th goal against the Rangers. He's on pace to break his career highs in goals and points. And Dave, I know, is a big fan of Velarde's. We all are. And we've been talking about him a lot because obviously this year's been disappointing, but you can definitely see the growth in Velarde's game. And what I wanted to ask you was about his ability to move down to the second line. And if you think that's something that, at least I think I'm going to be watching it, for these last 18 games or so, because we know that the second line and possibly the first line is going to look a lot different next year than it does this year.
Yeah, no, exactly. And really quickly, like Scott Arniel, I asked him about what those conversations were like with Gabe Vilardi and like talking to him about driving that second line and coming off that first line. And he said like he's been amazing about it. And I think that Gabe, from what Scott Arniel has said to us, has really taken it as an opportunity and a challenge. Like he loves challenging himself. And like, we just saw that new Jets video come out about the Lego. We know he likes going to rec room. Like this guy's always looking for a game within the game, right?
Hey, sorry, just to stop you, Danielle. Can we not both agree that an hour-long segment of just Sarah Orlesky and Gabe Vilardi like playing Lego would be something that you would be interested in?
Honestly, yes, because even just that short clip, I was like, wow, like
that would be better than Tuesday's game against the Ducks was. I can tell you that for sure.
I was like sitting there and I was like, should I be ordering Lego? Like, should I be trying this out? That's how I kind of left watching the video. But Gabe Vilardi's always looking for the game within the game and loves challenging himself. And no matter who you are as a player, I mean, there's a small handful of players that can hop onto any line and just be elite, right? But no matter who you are, it's going to take a hot minute to transition and kind of find your way in it with another line and other teammates. And he was so comfortable up with Connor and Scheifele, right? Like if you look at the three of those guys, like they're almost sitting at 50% of this team's goals. I think it's like 46% or something of the team's goals has come from those three guys. I'd be curious to look deeper and see what Vilardi goals have come not with them. But I think he has the opportunity and the wherewithal to really drive a second line. It'll be interesting to see who he's paired with, because that will definitely, go with it and like really affect if he's able to do that. Because if you're putting two slow guys with him, right, it's not really going to work out. And he's got all the skills. He's fast. He loves the net front. I mean, I can't see why it wouldn't work.
Danielle, one of the things that isn't working right now, and I'm not going to ask you for your assessment as to why, but maybe we'll get into it a little bit, is the Jets' ability to start periods on time. And I know it's been a big subject of conversation with the coaching staff, and Scott Arniel, as you just touched on a little while ago, is getting a little exasperated with his team in that regard. But I mean, given the stakes, given the fact that this team, I mean, we had written them off. We said, look, let's already start to kind of turn our focus, because the reality of this team being a playoff team, even if they get to the playoffs, what is the point? You're going to get destroyed by the team you're probably going to play today. So whichever team finishes in that second wildcard spot is not going to have a very fun first round against the Colorado Avalanche. But not that long ago, we were talking about a team that cut their deficit from 11 to 5 and could have been as high as 3, given if they would have beaten Anaheim on Tuesday. And yet, all of a sudden, they went from a team that was 4-0-2 to now having lost 2 straight. And a big contributing factor, to me at least, has been their starts to periods. What have you seen in that regard? It's
been a little bit tough to watch sometimes, because like the third period is always the most important period. Like it's always going to be, we need to come out like our life is on the line, no matter what the score, right? Like, and it just hasn't happened. And I will say it's very odd and just very probably unlikely that they would allow a goal in the first 2 minutes of like 5 out of their 6 last games, right? Like that's so unlikely. So how the heck does that even happen? I mean, I think, and this is something that I've been thinking for a while, I don't want to blame the schedule, because everyone in the league has to deal with the same condensed schedule. But one thing that I'm really going to look at once the regular season's done is what teams were affected most by the schedule. And you look at the Winnipeg Jets, they're one of, on average, the oldest teams in the league. Obviously, that's probably changed a little bit since the trades, but they're on average one of the oldest teams in the league, right? They have openly said that this condensed schedule has really been tough on them. So I'm thinking here, like, are the younger teams and the guys who are used to the grind of the AHL that come in, playing all these games, playing all these back-to-backs and, 3 and 4s and like 5 and 8s, right? Like, did that actually have such an effect on this specific team? Because they're exhausted, right? And some of their star players were just at the Olympics. Like, they've had no break at all. And I really do think it has to go with fatigue and the mental fatigue. Like, if you're not coming out ready in the third, there's a reason for that, and it's the mental fatigue, in my opinion.
Danielle Bain, our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, talking about the Winnipeg Jets. Reminder, later on this afternoon, maybe even early this evening, the Illegal Curve post-game show after the Jets and the Colorado Avalanche back here on our YouTube channel. A couple of those veteran guys, Danielle, Gus Nyquist and Jonathan Toews, have been playing with Isak Rosanne, and with due respect to Nyquist and Toews, they've been struggling. They haven't really been able to do much. And you could say that for the majority of the year with regard to those two players, that they've been disappointments. How many more games before the Jets really even bring up more youth from the Manitoba Moose to try and sort of just, inject some energy into the lineup? I mean, I watch Rosanne and I see him, his admirable skating and his playmaking. And then I look at Nyquist and Toews, and I'm thinking those guys just don't have a lot to offer in complementary skill set at this point to Rosanne. How much longer does this sort of continue until you get even more reinforcements from the AHL?
I think when this organization always looks at it, it's like they're never out till they're really out. And so I can't see them making any moves like that until they're for sure out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And again, with this team, like, if they're so will they, won't they? So like, if they do go on a run here, like, we won't know if they're going to be in the playoffs until probably so close to the end of the season. So I can't really see them bringing more youth, because in their minds right now, like, they're doing that with Lambert, Rosanne, Salamonson being up and things like that. So like, I don't see that happening unless they go on a losing run and it's like a for sure done thing. What I will say about watching just a small sample size of Rosanne, Nyquist, and Toews is that, like, I think Rosanne's actually making them better.
No question.
I agree.
For sure. Like, I think that they're kind of being like, oh man, this guy's like feeding us the puck here. Like, why wasn't I ready for that? There's been a few moments where they're kind of like one step behind and then they realize. And so I think that he's for sure making them look better. Like that one play that Rosanne had to Toews, he didn't capitalize on it in that game against who'd they just play? The Rangers.
Right. I forget all the time too, Dan.
Yeah, I know. I'm always like, what? But no, he's making them better for sure. I would like to see maybe another combo, maybe like Perfetti up with Rosanne, just to like see if that young youth style play could like work together.
Well, to your point, Danielle, sorry for interrupting. Shouldn't the Jets be using this? Yes, you can still, pretend that you have a chance at the playoffs, but shouldn't they be evaluating, can Rosanne be in our top 6 as opposed to right now where he would be? I mean, I honestly think that the Nyquist, Toews, and Rosanne line is closer to your 4th line than it is your 3rd line. So aren't you sort of wasting this Rosanne opportunity a little bit by not elevating him with more talented players to see if he can hold his head higher up in a lineup?
No, it's a great point. And honestly, I think it's because that they're just thinking like, well, let's just see one more game. I feel like this is the Jets like the whole season. They're like, oh, well, let's just see one more game. And if they show one sign of something really good, then they're like, oh, okay, like let's keep going with this. And so I can't really see them doing it, which is sad, because I think at this point they really should be toying with a million different things to kind of see how things pan out, especially when they're going up against really tough opponents, right? Like, no, obviously they're going into today's game, going to try their best, do whatever they can to try to win. You're going up against Colorado, right? Like, we always talk about sometimes there's scheduled losses, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's scheduled losses on the board, and obviously they're going to do whatever they can to win. But these are the type of games where it's kind of like, maybe we just try it because the odds are not stacked in our favor. So I'm kind of on your side on that one, Drew, for sure.
So Danielle, you started to answer the question I was going to ask you, because as you just mentioned, it's a game day. The Jets and the Avalanche play this afternoon. The Avalanche are obviously a huge favorite. Jets are a huge underdog, but just, 9 or 10 days ago, the Jets played one of their best games of the season and beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, which I think most people would consider the Tampa Bay Lightning a Stanley Cup contender, right? So what are you expecting today? Because like I said, the Jets seem like they should just roll over and the Avalanche should beat them 6-1. But I mean, the Jets have played the Avalanche pretty well over the years and they just beat Tampa. So what kind of things are you looking forward to?
Man, this is why we love the game, don't we? Because like you go into every game thinking you know what's happening and you know what's up, and you just get hit in the face with like the best type of hockey that you've ever seen, right? Like if you look at the Anaheim game,
Yeah.
that was like probably one of the toughest watches of the season.
Yes.
I might just put it at number one.
Yeah.
And looking back at Tampa, like the crowd was going crazy. Like everyone was going crazy. And I was like, what is happening? So that's why I never come into the rink and think like, gonna be a dud tonight. Like I'm never thinking that. Like they could go in today and pull off some crazy stuff. You never know what Connor Hellebuck's gonna do. Again, so many of the goals in the Rangers loss, like there's nothing he could really do. He did have that one that was kind of weak, but like you never know what this guy's going to do. This guy just won Olympic gold in the craziest fashion. And if he comes in and shuts the door on all these guys, like you really never know. So I'm hoping that the Jets mentality is like, okay, this is the best team in the league. Like, let's at least give our fans something to cheer for. And you know that they want to, based on kind of what Cole Perfetti was saying the other day when the fans were cheering for every single shot that the team had on net. Like he was like, yeah, that was embarrassing. Like we need to give them more. So I'm just hoping they come through thinking, you know what do we have to lose? We're playing loose. We're playing our best. We'll see.
Well, Danielle, you talk about Connor Hellebuck. We don't know that he's officially starting. It seems reasonable to assume that. But speaking of Hellebuck and starting, he has now started, I think, seven straight games because they've played 8 games out of the break, and obviously Eric Comrie played that one game in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective, Danielle, I mean, do you see them starting? Do you think they're going to play Comrie tomorrow? Are they going to run with Hellebuck? I mean, obviously it depends on his workload today, but this team looks like they're not letting up on Connor Hellebuck. At what point do you have to say, listen, we've got Eric Comrie. He's been pretty good for us. We got to give him a couple of games to try and because to me, Hellebuck, especially in that game against the Rangers, that last goal, that's not Hellebuck because he gets beat pretty clean. And for me, you talk about weariness, you talk about kind of wear and tear. This is a guy who didn't get a break during the Olympics, and now you've run him 7 straight games. And I know they've had good gaps in between, but at a certain point, you have to start to say, well, you're really overloading this guy a little bit too much.
That's a great point. And there's 2 sides of the coin, right? It's like if they were right on the cusp, like 1 point out, right? I could definitely see them saying, okay, Hellebuck against Colorado, Comrie against St. Louis. But you're right. Like, are they going into Colorado thinking like there's no chance here? We definitely need the win against St. Louis, so let's switch it up.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that should be a consideration. But again, knowing this team and knowing Connor Hellebuck, I don't think there's any chance that he's not starting today. I couldn't see that happening. If so, then you definitely know he's really exhausted and willing to kind of step aside. But I think the wear and tear has really come through on him. No breaks, Olympics, and everyone forgets about the knee procedure he had. Not saying there's anything wrong with the knee, but it's like when you do have an injury, like coming back from that, it's a mental grind as well, right? Like he even said it was so tough to be away. He's such an impatient guy when it comes to getting back on the ice. We all know that. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that could have been a consideration. Like if they were closer to a playoff spot, like they would probably really go Hellebuck then Comrie. But I mean, you never know with this team, guys. The decisions that get made and what we see on a daily basis, we're like, you don't say. So I am never going to sit here and think I am an expert on knowing what the Winnipeg Jets will do because they always surprise us, you guys.
Danielle, no, but hold on. Just toward Drew, doesn't Hellebuck have to start? His boy Jason Kelsey is going to be watching.
Oh, is he coming to the game?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I just made that up. I made that up. I don't.
First of all, as he called him Travis Kelsey on the post-game show on Thursday night. I'm a hockey guy. I'm not as big of an NFL guy. Did the Swifties
go crazy in your chat?
Yes.
The Swifties haven't come to our chat for some reason. The three guys in their the three white dudes in their 40s hasn't really captured the imagination of the
No, but
Swifties.
Danielle, we welcome them. Like my daughter's 7. She loves Taylor Swift.
Guys, I'm going to send the Swifties your way. Don't
do it. Do it.
Yeah, we are a equal opportunity. We welcome everybody here to the Illegal Curve post game show and the Illegal Curve hockey show. So
You guys are the
send the
best.
Swifties. We can do. I guess Bailey doesn't Bailey make beaded bracelets? Bailey's one of
He does.
our super
Bailey the
fans.
intern.
Bailey
Friendship
the intern.
bracelets.
Yeah, she makes bracelets and with beads on them, and she made them for us. So yeah, we can do some exchanges, and we can all wear our sequins. And yeah, Swifties are more than welcome here.
And now the group, now the chat is talking about Swifties. So we've got a whole.
Danielle, I think last time we had Danielle on, we were talking about the Jonas Brothers. I'm not sure how that came up, just because I think you're a big fan of the Jonas Brothers, right?
Oh, heck yeah. And, I remember that exact moment. I said Gabe Gallardi is like the Kevin Jonas of the top line.
There we go.
And just so you know, everyone still loves Kevin. So just like they love Kevin and he can do things on his own, Gabe Gallardi can drive that second line, guys.
There you go. From Kevin Jonas to Taylor Swift and the Winnipeg Jets and everything in between, Danielle Bain always brings it here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Danielle, thanks so much. Enjoy the back-to-back. Work hard. We'll see you at the rink.
Appreciate you guys.
us.
By the way, Danielle, before you go, Bailey did offer to make. She said, "Good morning, everyone. Just conquered Costco. I can definitely make you a bracelet, Danielle."
Okay, I'll come back on the pod anytime.
Thanks, Danielle. Have a great Saturday.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
See you later.
There she goes. Danielle Bain joining us this morning here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We go commercial free in hour number 1. That's what we do here on the program. So
I'm going to close the blinds again, Drew.
Yeah, you should close the blinds. I was going to suggest that. We'll come back as you'll have the blinds closed. We'll talk about the Jets and the Avs. The Jets.
Is he there? I can't see him.
He's there.
It's all shadows.
Yeah, I know. He's all shadow there. Now he's doing some sort of weird Tai Chi or something. I'm not sure what he was doing.
I thought he was having a stroke, to be honest with you.
That could be it too. Much more of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
It was a stroke, Dave.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca. For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hey Winnipeg, Joe Carter here. I look forward to joining you in Winnipeg on June 4th for the Rady JCC Ken Cronson Sports Dinner. See you in June. Don't be late.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Hour number 2 of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show starts now. It is, of course, presented by our friends at Play Now. They're our title sponsor for all of our programming. We appreciate our friends at Play Now, and we hope that you appreciate them too by signing up for Play Now and getting a $20 lottery welcome bonus. Play Now is Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site and the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Doubleheader of Jets action today against the Avalanche. That ought to be a doozy. Tomorrow afternoon against the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues are now, in fact, ahead of the Winnipeg Jets in the, I'm going to put it in quotes, the playoff chase in the Western Conference. The Blues having gone 7-2-1 in their last 10, so they're playing good hockey. Let's go back to a question I asked Danielle in the previous interview about Isak Rosanne. He's come in since the trade deadline. I guess that was how many games ago now? 3 games ago. And he's certainly acquitted himself as fitting in with this team. He's got the goal that he scored against the Rangers on Thursday night. He set Jonathan Taves up for the breakaway opportunity. He's been a contributing member, and I would argue the most contributing member of his line. Why shouldn't he get a bump up into the top 6 so the Jets can see what they have? With respect to Alex Iafallo, and we know what Alex Iafallo can do. We know what kind of player he is. We know he's a valuable and an important player for the Winnipeg Jets. But I personally, over the next number of games, would love to see if a guy like Rosanne can play higher up in your lineup against with 2 of your most talented players in Connor and Scheifele, and to see if he can do, if he can succeed against higher level of talent from the opponent's perspective. Make an argument against it. It would be what I would say to you two gentlemen.
No, I wouldn't. I think you have to play Rosanne in a top 6 role, whether that's on the Scheifele line or whether that's whatever the second line is going to be. I think you have to play him just because of his high-end upside and the fact that you acquired him to produce in your lineup, right? Like you wouldn't have made that trade, included him in the trade, if you didn't want to give him an opportunity, right? And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about giving him an opportunity to play with the Jets' most talented player. So I think you absolutely do. And I think, we don't want to, pump his tires too much. You're not going to pretend like Isak Rosanne is Wayne Gretzky here. Like we don't want to give unfair expectations to what he can do, but he certainly has the skill set, and he's produced at the American Hockey League level, a little bit at the NHL level. So I think, now is the time. Like I'm all about trying everything for these next 18 games. I really am.
Right.
There's not enough Moose players that you can call up, Dave, as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, so bring up Danny Zhilkin, bring up Walker Dewar at a certain point, bring up Colby Barlow, bring up Braden Yager. Let's see these guys play in a Jets jersey and see what they can do, because next year there's going to be a lot of turnover in that forward group.
Yeah, and of course, as as everyone knows, you're limited, right? You can only make 3 recalls right now. That's all they've got left after recalling both Salamonson and Lambert. But you have emergency recalls. Look, the Jets are only carrying 12 forwards, so even if one of those guys goes down, and you need to make a recall, the reality is you're going to do it on an emergency basis, and you're not going to burn, I would presume, not one of your regular recalls. So the Jets definitely, as you're right, they have the ability, and you don't have to go very far back to listen to what we assessed probably a month ago, what this team is going to do, which was be sellers at the deadline. Well, we were right about that. And then once it was determined that they were going to be out of the playoffs, which I suspect we can be talking about on Monday, once that is kind of, well, I understand we can talk about it now, Drew, but I'm saying that.
Go on. I shouldn't have interrupted you. I apologize.
No, that's all good. It becomes even more sort of obvious, I would suspect, on Monday. Then you start to talk about, you're right. You have to evaluate. You have to be able to show yourself as an organization. Try Gabe Vilardi for 15 games at center for the next 15 games. Who cares? What do you have to lose? See if he can be a second line center. I mean, he played center for years. He liked playing center. He was a center with the Kings to a degree. Now, all teams have moved him off of center. So, I mean, that's probably a sign that he's most likely not a center at the NHL level. Mm-hmm. But what do you have to lose? Give him a shot at center. Maybe he solves that issue. I'm just saying that Ezzy is 100% right. What you need to be doing is evaluating your team and being able to say, hey, and I know, Drew, you started this with Isak Rosanne. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to turn my nose up at a guy who scored, 28 goals at the AHL level. You know what that would make him? That would make him a guy who scored almost double as many as everybody in this current organization at the AHL level. Right. So that to me is a guy who can produce at the American Hockey League level. And like I said, that's not something I would turn my nose up. He's got 1 goal in his first 3 games with the Jets, and it was a nice goal. And I think that you are not doing him right by putting him with Nyquist and Taves. And while I would admit that the issue with Scheifele, Connor, and Rosanne is that you don't necessarily have a guy who's going to dig in the corners and get that loose puck. Bit of an issue there. I don't mind. I don't hate the idea of putting him with with Perfetti and Vilardi and seeing if you could get something there. So again, that presumably
the point is putting him in a top 6 role, playing him with talented players.
No question.
You talk about his goal scoring at the AHL level, and it's impressive. Every time he's had an opportunity at the NHL level, he's also been able to score goals. I mean, 3 goals in the 16 games that he played for the Sabres so far this year. So he's now at 4 goals in 19 NHL games this year. I mean, if you're scoring every 1 in every 4 games you're playing at the NHL level, that's going to make you a 20 goal scorer. I'm not a math genius, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close to that. Extrapolated over.
Can you ask your dad to fact check it, Drew, right now?
It's funny you mentioned that. I went for dinner with my dad and my sister last night, and I was mentioning, I'm like, Dad, you maybe aside from Sheldon,
he actually wasn't a math professor this whole time, as he just found out.
Yeah, exactly. No, but
he was an English professor. Holy
yeah, exactly. No, but I was saying, you probably get the most mentions. I was talking about Flin Flon. Obviously, my dad's from Flin Flon. Many people know that. But I was saying, Dave always gives you shout out whenever we're talking about, that we're not math geniuses. You usually get the shout out. So you and Sheldon definitely, Sheldon/dad, Sheldon Mindell, obviously get a lot of mentions, as well as Dave's grandparents as well, because they're alive and kicking at, I believe they're 96 now, right, Dave?
No, 98. My grandfather's turning 99 in 2 weeks.
Oh, 90. Wow. That's awesome for your Zeta.
Yeah.
Back to Rosanne, though. I mean, I just don't see. Look, if Scott O'Neill's the one making this lineup, and we believe that he is, and he still has that authority as the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, I'm not understanding his rationale for not doing these things. Is it a function you're not winning with the lineup you've been putting out there night in, night out? And I understand you only have 12 forwards right now, so you can't bench guys. I get that. I mean, of course, you could, depending on, Kevin Cheveldayoff makes the decisions about when to call guys up and recall guys and things of that nature. You have 12 forwards. You only have 12 options to choose from. But watching Taves, Nyquist, and Rosanne for the last number of games hasn't given you any thought that this is a line that you're learning anything from playing this line together. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I just don't understand what Scott O'Neill's hesitancy would be to not give Rosanne an elevated chance in your lineup.
I think you're going to see it. I really do. I think you're going to see it. I'm not saying that you're going to see it.
Ezzy, you're in trouble.
Why?
You didn't mention my mom. She just texted.
Oh, no.
I was going to say, my mom, and it's funny because my mom watches every show, and I was like, ooh, I'm like, my mom's not getting mentioned. Cheryl,
so shout out to Cheryl Manouk and shout out to Tanis Mindell. I apologize. They are definitely the most important people, not the dads. The mums are the most important people. So I got to get that out there. So hopefully Tanis is going to forgive me. I know I'm usually on Tanis's good side, Drew.
Yeah.
So I want to stay there.
You're more often on Tanis's good side than my good side. So that's
true. It's true. She likes me. She's one of the Mindells that likes me the most for sure.
Yeah.
But so I apologize, Tanis, for not mentioning you earlier. But yeah, I mean, you got to play him in the top 6. I think another argument has to be, why is Gus Nyquist in the lineup right now?
Well, because you only have 12 forwards. I mean, that's
yeah, but I'm saying I think I think it's time to bring up some young players from the Moose, especially considering the Jets they're not making the playoffs at this point, guys. Even if the Jets win these next 2 games, they're a long shot to make the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to win these next 2 games. So even though I was joking with Dave that I can't
watch Gus Nyquist anymore. I mean, it's just, he got the 1 goal, great. He can say that he finally scored a goal, but he's actively hurting the team on a night in, night out basis. He just doesn't have anything left. That is, look, and I understand that you're limited to those 5 recalls, and we've talked about that and everything else, but honest to goodness, who cares anymore? I mean, there's ways around that if necessary. Shouldn't be.
You could literally make an. You can't make an emergency recall with no justification, but you could just make a recall. I mean, if you had to.
That's just, if you're ostensibly still trying to win games, and I don't doubt for a second that the Jets are, that they still, certainly until the Tuesday and Thursday debacles of this week, they envisioned themselves going on a run and getting back into a playoff spot. Playing Gus Nyquist just doesn't help your cause in the least bit. He's not doing anything for you. I mean, John,
but also I think it's also, Drew, because of next year. Nobody really sorry, all due respect to Gus Nyquist, nobody really expects the Jets to bring him back. Like, why would you? Like, based on
this year, riot if you did.
Well,
nobody's bringing him back.
That's what I'm saying. So if he doesn't factor into next year, don't you want to have a player up there? Like, I would rather see Danny Zhilkin right now in the lineup than Gus Nyquist. And I realize the recall situation. By the way, I was going to ask you guys, once a guy's recalled, that player, he can be sent down and back up. Like, he doesn't count as 2 recalls.
No. Oh, I see what you're saying.
If you sent him back down, he would count as 2 recalls.
Oh, so it does count. So if you call
Zhilkin up, once you call a guy up, you're going to keep him up at the NHL level for the remainder of the year, because there's no roster limits anymore. So you can call a guy up and leave him at the NHL level. You can have 27 guys on your NHL roster as long as you're cap compliant. Of course, that would decimate the Manitoba Moose. I mean, I think that's probably part of the reason why they haven't called up some of these guys. Dave, do you think that factors into it? Because
the Moose are comfortably in a playoff spot. They're going to be they're a playoff. I mean, although they've lost back-to-back games in regulation for the first time since February, but the Moose are going to be a playoff team. I don't think there's any question about that.
What about that Ty Bauer fight, Drew?
Well, we'll talk about that later on towards the end of the broadcast. But then that further complicates and confuses the issue. Well, remember, a guy would be in the lineup.
Because again, Drew, there's the illusion that you're still a playoff potentially team, and so you're at that point. You can say that, Drew, but I'm just telling you that if you're asking me to give you an answer, you might not like the answer, but I still going to give you the same answer.
I love your answer, Dave. I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you. I haven't even given it, and he already loves it. I like that. Thank you, Ez. But that's the sport I like on this show. But I just think I should actually give no answer. I should just stop talking and be like, thank you, Ez, for confirming.
Just dead air moving forward.
But no, I mean, I think that they just aren't prepared to, quote, throw in the towel and start to do the evaluations. We're all ready for them to do it. We, as a collective, whether you're a pundit who analyzes the team, whether you're a fan who supports this team by going to the games or watching them on TV or however you choose to fan, I think that 90% of the folks are pragmatic and realistic and understand what this team is and what this team needs to do. I just think that organizationally, they're not there yet. And once they are, as I've been on record now for a long time saying that you need to evaluate what you've got. You need to see Danny Zhilkin play 10 NHL games in a row and not have to worry about coming out of the lineup. You need to see, I don't really care who the next player I'm going to mention is.
Braden
Yager. Sure. Give him, you talk about Salamonson, right? And what it has done for he played, I want to say 78 AHL games, right? So, Yager's a first-year pro, but maybe that's what you do. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to throw him into the fire for the final 10 games. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but maybe that's what the Jets choose to do.
Can you not make the argument, though, that playing Gus Nyquist is a sign that you've already thrown in the towel? Can you not make that argument given his performance and lack thereof that...
Well, for sure. Obviously, I'd rather
him in the lineup is a sign you're actually actively trying to tank.
Well, I think there's no question that Walker Dewar, Parker Ford, Danny Zhilkin in that role are all vast improvements on Gus Nyquist. I do, for sure. I mean, I'd throw Gus Nyquist on waivers, whatever you need to do to get down. If you want to get down to 11, get down to 11, and then you can make an emergency recall because you've only got 11. But although I don't think you're allowed to put yourself into that situation. But yes, I think Gus Nyquist doesn't help this team. And I think that there are a handful of guys on the Moose roster that could improve what he does.
Let me ask you guys this. For the next 18 games, that's what's left in this season is 18 games. Is Scott Arniel coaching for his job for next year?
No.
Ooh. Wow. That's a big matzo ball that you just threw out there, Drew.
Well, we've seen the signs of a head coach getting increasingly frustrated with his team. I would argue that you have not seen signs, for the most part, that the team has tuned him out overwhelmingly. They haven't quit on him like they've quit on Craig Berube in Toronto, let's say. But you see the frustration seeping out of Scott Arniel, especially on Thursday, talking about, the slow starts to the periods. What needs to, if the next 18 games go completely off the rails, is his job become one that's I for the longest time this year, I haven't thought that his job is in jeopardy, because I thought he's done an, I would argue, average job with a bad hand that he's been played by the general manager, that he's been handed by the general manager. But as the frustration continues to seep in, does that change over the next 18 games?
First of all, I think you bringing up the question is valid, because in a season where the Jets went from the president last year winning the President's Trophy to this year most likely missing the playoffs, I appreciate it, because is someone going to take responsibility for this, right? Like, if this season has gone so poorly and you run it back with Chevy and Arniel, I could see why people think that. I don't think Scott Arniel's job is in jeopardy, though. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be in jeopardy. I just believe, and that's just my own personal opinion, I obviously am not a Jets insider like Dave Minuk is, but I think because of the injuries at the beginning of the season, right? You had Perfetti and Sandberg, and then I guess we'd throw Hellebuck in there. That was the first half of the season, right? Like, there's been some serious injuries and also some serious flaws in this lineup, to Drew's point. So I still think Scott Arniel is a really good coach. I still think he has the ears and eyes of this team. So I'll say this much, though, Drew, about the next 18 games. I think they're going to have to show that they're going to have to show some resiliency and show that they're going to fight till the end, because we know that it's inevitable that they're going to call some guys up from the Moose. It's going to happen, right? The Danny Zhilkin, Colby Barlow, Braden Yager, Parker. Pardon me. I combined Parker Ford and Walker Duehr.
Ford and Walker Duehr.
Like, they're going to call some guys up. Like, obviously, we're going to, I guess, probably have to wait a little bit for that to happen. It's certainly not going to happen this weekend, right? Because the Jets only have 12 forwards. But yeah, I still think that he's coaching for next year in that sense, because he's got to show that he's got to now integrate these players and still play some good hockey, right? Like, that's the thing. Even if a team is completely out of it, like, use the New York Rangers as an example. They've been winning some games, including beating the Jets. You could say, well, how's that happening? Well, guys are playing for jobs for next year, right, Dave? Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about, especially a guy like Walker Duehr or Parker Ford, they're trying to make a good impression on the coach, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with the younger players like Zhilkin and Yager, whoever ends up being called up. Like, these guys are going to give an honest effort. So in that sense, I think it's important that Arniel finishes this season strong with what we expect to be a much younger lineup.
So to answer Drew's question, well, I mean, I did, because I said no. And to give a more fulsome response, I would suggest that I wouldn't worry about the last 18 games. I would worry about the first 18 games. And by that, I mean the first 18 games of the 26-27 season. I think that while I don't think he is in trouble for this year, I think you're going to give him grace for the fact that they were the President's Trophy winners last year. And as he laid out, the injuries, you can say they're excuses, but you lost Connor Hellebuck for a significant period of time. I mean, just imagine, again, I know that folks don't think the team is flawed, but guys, with the absence of maybe 2 or 3 teams that play in the Central Division and maybe 1 or 2 teams in the East, there's 5 teams that are probably not even flawed in the NHL. And even those teams have, here or there. You could say Carolina's goaltending could be a flaw.
So
but I'm just saying
5 very good teams, and the rest are one off season can change things.
Yeah, there's 5 good, in my estimation, there's 5 good teams in the NHL, and there are like really good teams, and then there's some decent teams, and then there's a lot of below average teams, or middling teams. And so I would say that, I mean, we know that if Connor Hellebuck was in the net healthy for those 3 weeks that he missed, or whatever exactly it was in the, 14 games or whatever, however many games it was during that time, maybe it wasn't 14, but it was probably at least 10 games that he missed. The fact is that if he wins half of those games, then there's a chance that we're talking again slightly differently about this Jet season. But with the Hellebuck injury, with the Lowry not be ready to go and not having a training camp, and with Perfetti and the high ankle sprain, there are some built-in reasons Sandberg's injury for sure. There's some built-in things that you could look at, losing Pionk, that you could look at this team and you say, okay, fine, here we're going to give you a little grace. We suffered a lot of injuries, much like look at those Minnesota Wild last year. Minnesota Wild, who were right with the Jets early in the season, suffered catastrophic injuries throughout the season and didn't make the playoffs. But we know this year, again, I'm not saying the Jets and the Wild are the same. I'm just saying that you're going to give him a little bit of latitude. So no, I don't think his job is at risk, regardless of what happens in the final 18. I could be proven wrong. I think that you're going to definitely have him on the hot seat, though, next year. If he can't show with a full healthy group over the summer and a good training camp, if this team doesn't get off to a very good start, then I think we're having a different conversation.
He definitely has to be on the hot seat next year, because you can't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row if you're the Jets.
Yeah,
right. You just can't. They need to be back in the playoffs next year. So Dave is bang on when he talks about the start and how this team performs, but also Kevin Cheveldayoff has a lot of work to do on this roster. That's the thing, right? Like, we can talk all we want about coaching, but unless you address the secondary scoring and the second line center position right now, as the Jets are currently constructed, they're just an average to below average hockey team. Yes, there's going to be a lot more pressure on Arniel next year.
And that's why I think, largely that's why I, if you ask me my evaluation, Scott Arniel, Kevin Cheveldayoff deserves the blame for how this roster was constructed. Now, Scott Arniel has made some mistakes in how it's been deployed. No question about that. But the construction of the roster, which led to the negative deployment, is on Kevin Cheveldayoff. So, I mean, it's just been such a poor year for the Winnipeg Jets. And maybe it was a perfect storm of setbacks and injuries. I mean, I would argue the perfect storm for that is probably more in Florida than it is in Winnipeg. But, you can certainly say that the injuries and everything else has held the team back. But even fully healthy, let's say they had full health for the entirety of the season, so many of the decisions that were made this offseason vis-a-vis the reinforcements that were brought in were just plain and simply wrong decisions. Now, that's on the general manager. But as we sit here over the next final 18 games of the season, I see the head coach making mistakes that I didn't necessarily see him making earlier in the year. Yes, he's limited because of the injuries that the Jets have to Nemesnikov and Niederreiter in particular, and limited to based on what is available to him in terms of forwards, not to mention the Pionk injury and everything else on the back end.
Like you just said, Drew, the Jets don't have any spare forwards right now.
Right. They don't have any spare forwards at all. Now, why Kevin Cheveldayoff hasn't called up a forward is something I don't fully understand, and I would argue is an error in his that would be in his column.
Well, hold on, Drew, just 1 second. I'm not Kevin Cheveldayoff's number one defender. But in this case, I think it is, to Dave's point earlier, I think it's because of the amount of recalls that he has left.
Doesn't matter, Izzy. You can't keep putting out a guy who is clearly Gus Nyquist should not be in the lineup anymore.
I agree with you on that.
So, Walker Dewar, Parker Ford, David Gustafson, Danny Zhilkin, we all know the names.
Yeah.
Those guys at least are going to be are better options than Gus Nyquist. And who cares if it burns one of your recalls? I mean, with all due respect, it's unconscionable that if you tell us with a straight face, and I'll believe you at face value, Winnipeg Jets organization, that if you tell us with a straight face you're still battling for a playoff spot, well, at the same time that you run out Taves and Nyquist together on a line, that at the same time tells me you're not actually battling for that playoff spot. You might be paying lip service to the whole thing, but You can't tell me that the sky is red and not expect me to look up and to confirm it. It doesn't make any sense that you continue to play those guys in the roles that you do when they just can't contribute at the NHL level anymore.
Well, and the only thing I would add is it's kind of like having a timeout, right? Like timeouts are great, but if you go throughout the game, you don't actually use your timeout.
I got a lot of those in elementary school, Dave.
Not surprised. You're about to get a timeout right now, but no, I mean, there's no question. I think that, we can talk about having the recalls and wanting guys to, get it shot. But that's why I said, like, to me right now, look, Mark Morrison called Danny Zhilkin a number one center in the AHL. And I'm not going to sit here and none of the Moose are lighting it up from a goal scoring perspective. But I've been on record and I've been saying for months, why would you not give a guy like Danny Zhilkin a solid run for the final 20 games? And so that would have been my kind of assessment. And you can use a recall on a Zhilkin, right? Use a recall on a Zhilkin. As Drew says, there's no roster limits in that regard. So the fact is that you give Zhilkin that chance. And I got to tell you, you put Zhilkin, Rosanne, and Taves together, fine. Again, like I said, at least then, you're going to win the face-off, and then you can have the two kids run up the puck, and hopefully they can get it to the Winnipegger. But at least then you've got something. Because I actually agree with Danielle. I thought that Rosanne made that line better than we've seen it to date. But that's kind of damning with faint praise, I think, because it's been not particularly very good. So, I mean, like I said, I think that there's you can say that we've only got 5 recalls in this regard, 3 left, but there's nothing stopping you from making one of them at least right now and giving a kid like Zhilkin, who's been a solid he's been healthy this year. Give him that chance to roll up with the Jets and see what he can do for the final 20.
There is no more fun team in the NHL than the Buffalo Sabres. We'll talk to our good friend Marty Biron on the other side of the break about the Sabres and about the landscape of the NHL after the trade deadline. Marty Biron coming up next. Saturday morning, you're watching the Illegal Curve Hockey Show presented by Play Now.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca. For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hey Winnipeg, Joe Carter here. I look forward to joining you in Winnipeg on June 4th for the Rady JCC Ken Cronson Sports Dinner. See you in June. Don't be late.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. We're here live on this Saturday morning. Reminder, we'll be back later on this evening after the Jets and the Colorado Avalanche for the Illegal Curve post-game show, where we'll cover everything that happens today in downtown Winnipeg. We're pleased to welcome to the program our good friend Marty Biron joins us on the show this morning from Buffalo, where the Sabres, the Buffalo Sabres, let's let it sink in. I'm sure it's exciting for you to hear it as well, Marty. The Buffalo Sabres are currently atop the Atlantic Division, 2 points up on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Marty, I have to ask you, since the Olympic break came and went, the Sabres have been one of the most entertaining teams in the league, if not the most entertaining. What was more entertaining to you? That Sabres Lightning 8-7 best hockey game of the season, or Tage Thompson taking those 5 one-timers in a row on the power play earlier this week?
I mean, and no disrespect to Tage Thompson and those heavy one-timers, but you got to go to the Tampa game. It was a 1-0 game after one, right? And yes, there was the 5-on-3. The Sabres didn't score a full 2 minutes of 5-on-3, and you're like, man, that was terrible. And then, that before that, Tage Thompson got hit from behind by Hagel and Cirelli, and there was some fighting then. And then there was a fight at the start of the second, more fights after, and 14 more goals in that game. So, guys, you're laughing because this was Sunday was a 6:00 game Eastern. So I got to the arena at about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I have my food, I got my prep work, and it's the start of the third period. And I'm like, gee, I've been drinking like water like crazy because this is so much fun. And you're like, I feel like I should have a beer, but whatever. Right. So, and then I'm like, I said to Duffer, I'm like, third period starting. I'm like, I'm running to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So I run to the bathroom, and then they have the TV on in the bathroom, so you don't miss any of the action. And Tampa scores to make it 5-4 right away at the start of the third period. And the guy next to me is like, come on. Like, we can't lose this game. Like, and I'm like, listen, bud, there's a lot more goals in this game, right? And sure enough, there was 6 more goals in the game. The last 3 to the Sabres, they were down 7-5. They win 8-7. It was absolutely bonkers. So, no disrespect to Tage, but Sunday's game was by far the best.
Marty, before I ask my question, it's bugging me. I tried to zoom in on you there. Hopefully, is that a Sabres toque or what? Because I can see it's CCM.
No, this is a Kempville 73s. So, guys, the Sabres are hot, but it has been freezing cold in Buffalo over the last couple of days. We had snow yesterday, snow this morning. So I was outside with the dogs, and I put my toque on, and my son played a couple of years in Kempville. That's in the CCHL Junior A. So it's like if you guys, it's about 45 minutes south of Ottawa. So between Ottawa and Brockville, like basically there. Brockville's on the 401, Ottawa's on the, up there. It's like right in between there. So if you remember Jason York, he used to own the team, and then he sold it, and then so I contacted Yorkie like years ago, maybe like 5 years ago now. And my son went for, tryouts and made the team, was there for 2 years. And that was awesome.
And sorry, where's your son playing now?
He is actually at West Point Military Academy. So he's playing Division I hockey there with Army. So their season ended last week. 2 weeks ago now. They lost to Niagara. So it's that Atlantic hockey is Niagara Canisius, Mercier's, RIT, Bentley, Sacred Heart, Holy Cross, Army, Air Force. Like there's 10 teams in that conference, and it's been good because he comes to play basically in the Buffalo area a couple times a year. So it's awesome. We get to see him a lot.
Great.
That's awesome.
I didn't realize your son was enlisted. So, that's quite the achievement, quite the honor. Congratulations to you and your son and your whole family for that.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because obviously he's got dual citizenship. So, he was born in the U.S. and then I got them their Canadian citizenship later. But so when he kind of went out to see if there was Division I opportunity, so he got recruited with Army, and luckily he was a good student. He had great grades, so it was a door that could open for him. But then they were having to do this background check on him, right? Because so and my mom worked for the Canadian government as a civilian employee, but still, so they contacted my parents to make sure they weren't Canadian spies. So I'm like, my mom is like, I got a call from the military academy today or some sort. Like, oh boy, but they did their due diligence, whatever. It was kind of funny. I'm like, no spies over here.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we follow your son's hockey career as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we followed your career, right? And so I wanted to ask you about, just to bring it back, we're a Winnipeg-based show. I wanted to ask you about Josh Dunne, because obviously his dad played a season here with the Jets, and I think myself included, when the Sabres signed him to that 7-year, $48.5 million contract, I was thinking wow, that's a lot of money. For such a young player, but the way he's playing right now, this is his breakout season, 20 goals, 45 points. What stood out to you about Josh Dunne? Because obviously Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, they get, I think, more of the headlines, but I mean, this Josh Dunne, I mean, he's a heck of a hockey player.
So the biggest thing with, that transaction, sending JJ Peterka to Utah and acquiring Michael Kesselring, which was, the Sabres wanted a big right shot defenseman. Unfortunately for Kesselring, he's not been healthy this season. He's had some moments and it's been a tough year, but I think he'll be great on that blue line. But the Sabres really wanted Josh Dunne, right? So they were not going to make the deal if they weren't going to get Josh Dunne. And a lot of people are like, just a third liner, this kid, I get he's got, a dad that played a long time in the NHL, but he has fit perfectly. And you guys, the Dunne family is awesome. I played with Shane at the World Juniors, at the World Championship. I've got to know him over the years through a bunch of these events and other friends. And I mean, he's an amazing person, but Josh is so, it fitted so well in that locker room. It wasn't just, we're acquiring a depth piece. The Sabres needed depth, but they needed producing depth. And all of a sudden, when Josh Norris is healthy and that chemistry with Josh Dunne, and now they're playing with Noah Ostlund, who was a Rochester Americans prospect that got a chance to play this year and has been performing well. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a line that has Tage Thompson on it. You got a line that has Josh Norris and Dunne and Ostlund on it. And then you have a line that has McLeod, Zucker, and Quinn on it. Your top nine is pretty stacked. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you brought in a character guy, a standout human being from a standout family, and he's fitted perfectly and he's performed on the ice awesome. So yeah, I know. I mean, I remember when Donor got drafted by the Jets, and obviously the move but I remember playing with Teppo Numminen in Buffalo, and he had just such high praises to say about Shane. Obviously, these guys played together in Winnipeg. So he fitted perfectly, and it was awesome that he got rewarded with the contract.
Sorry, Dave, before you get in here, just you mentioning Teppo Numminen, you just made so many fans of the Jets 1.0 so happy, Marty.
He was the best, and I love Teppo. First of all, I called him Bono because he looked like you, like Bono from YouTube. But so he was just in town a couple months ago because we did a big reunion, and I sat down and did an interview with him, and I'm like, Teppo. So when he was on the bench, right, he had his stick like this. He was looking at the play, and I was always I was the backup, so I was always talking to everybody. And Teppo would never say a word to me. He'd always be so focused. And I said to him, I'm like, all these years later, did I annoy you when I was on the bench? Is that why you didn't talk to me? He goes, no. He goes, Marty, he goes, early in my career, I had a hard time focusing. And I would he's like, I space out like a dog that sees squirrels. He's like, oh, I'd be like looking at everything. And then I'd forget like who we were playing, what the score was, what period it was. So I told myself I would not get distracted when I'm on the bench and I'd always follow the play. I thought I was the reason why he wouldn't talk to me, but it's his internal. And what a great player he was, right?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing player. So I learned something about Teppo Numminen 20 years after I played with him.
Well, Marty, it seemed last week that the only phone calls that you could make out of Winnipeg were to Buffalo, and Kevin Cheveldayoff and Jarmo Kekalainen. They consummated a couple of deals. And, for years when we've had you on, we tend to focus on the Rochester Americans and the guys coming up because unfortunately the Sabres were never, really in contention. So happy for you that you get to cover a team that is doing so well, and happy for the folks in Buffalo, of course, because you guys have one of the top fan bases as far as I'm concerned. So it's been real nice to see for you guys in that regard. But obviously, as you said, we're a Winnipeg-based show. So I'm curious to, get your assessment on Isak Rosanne and what you know about this kid and what you can kind of fill in the blanks for folks here.
So Isak is a fantastic person, like such a great kid. And, I got to see him many times in Rochester. Like, it's fun because when I go to Rochester now, I walk right into locker room. I go right to the coach's office, and, that it was Seth Appert before or Michael Leone now. Like, they absolutely loved Rosanne and what he's been able to bring to that team. And when he wasn't there, the team took a hit. And when he got traded, the team took a hit, right? It's just, he was such a big part of their success. And he got called up to Buffalo a few times. And I feel like the Sabres, when they gave him an opportunity in the top 6, top 9, he performed. But often, you get called up and you're stuck on the fourth line, and no disrespect to Beck Mallenstein or Josh Dunne or whatever, but it's not the same thing. Like, Rosanne's a smart hockey player with really high-end skills. He's not the biggest of guys. So you put him on a fourth line, on a line that's going to, dump and chase and hit and whatever, not his style. But give him an opportunity to be in the top 6, top 9 with players that think the game like him. He's great. I knew eventually that the Sabres were going to have to lose some of their Rochester prospects. I was even like, so Isak Rosanne is one of them. Yes, he gets traded to you guys in Winnipeg. Konsta Helenius, I'm like, this guy, the Sabres may have to, sacrifice him to acquire something. And apparently, there was trade talks that included him, but I don't know that the Sabres were ready to do it yet, but I know some of the prospects are going to have to be moved out. And I was sad to see Rosanne go because he's definitely one of those guys that I think can and will perform really well at the NHL level. And the first thing that I saw when Kevin Cheveldayoff talked after the trade deadline and he said, Rosanne is here in Winnipeg for the rest of the year. I'm like, oh, thank you. He'll get an opportunity. Everybody's going to get to appreciate what he can do. I think this is going to be huge for him.
Marty Biron is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Marty, you mentioned the trade deadline. The Jets get Rosanne from the Sabres. We know Logan Stanley and Luke Shen go back to Buffalo. But we also know that the Sabres were within a whisker of maybe getting Colton Parayko out of St. Louis.
Yes.
Is there any sense of disappointment or, what the acquisition of Parayko would have done to the lineup for the Sabres entering the playoff stretch drive as opposed to what Stanley and Shen could do? Maybe I'll use the word regret, but that's probably not the right word, but any sort of, what could have been sort of situation?
Well, obviously, as a GM, you always look at what big names, what impact players are out there, right? And you're going to take a chance if it fits. And if you're willing to part ways with the currency that it's going to cost you to get those. And obviously for Parayko, it was going to be it looked like it was Radim Murtka, who is playing out of the Western Hockey League in Seattle. The first round pick last year, top 10 pick. So he almost made the Sabres at the start of the year and a first round pick. So that was big price. But Parayko, obviously, he's a stud. In my opinion, like Team Canada, Olympics, Four Nations, whatever, he's a stud. It didn't happen. No big deal. I think the Sabres and Jarmo Kekalainen had options, right? And I'm not going to say option A, B, C, D. I think all the options were on the same level. It just so happened that maybe they felt like that St. Louis trade was going to work. It didn't work. Parayko says, I have a no movement clause. I'm not moving. That's fine. But I think that the Sabres needed to know, and they would have liked to have known a little bit sooner, but they needed to know so they can go to other options. And the option to bring in Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn, especially on defense, and then Tanner Pearson later for a forward depth. But I think it's perfect for the Sabres. They have a top four with Dahlin, Samuelsson, Power, and Byram. That is not going to move, right? You're not bringing in anybody to come into the top four. With Parayko, maybe you would have changed the way your second and third pair is, but it doesn't matter. Right now, your top four is set. So Stanley comes in, plays one game with Kesselring. It was good for Stanley, and Kesselring was fine. The next day, they brought in Schenn into the lineup, and he played with Stanley. They were okay. Like, they were on the ice for the one goal, but I feel like they're gonna just get better, and with the systems and everything. I think tonight they're gonna keep Schenn and Stanley together against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I can't wait to see their second game together. But there's gonna be a bit of a rotation for me, like in the bottom pair. It's gonna be Stanley, Schenn, and Kesselring, and those three are gonna kind of come in and out of that lineup depending on how the performances and how they do.
So, Marty, yesterday, you mentioned Beck Malenstein earlier. Yesterday, I'm not sure if you saw this, but Beck Malenstein set a new record since the NHL Edge has been tracking speed burst, 24.94 miles per hour, which is just incredible. That's the same speed Drew drives around Winnipeg. But I was going to ask you, Marty, when you played, who is a player that when you saw their speed burst, when you saw them start to pick up speed, I should say, and then who is a guy that just absolutely terrified you coming down the wing?
So a guy that I played with was Maxim Afinogenov. Like whenever he got going, you're like, whoo, this guy can fly. And I made the mistake. Well, maybe it's not a mistake. I let him borrow my, I used to have a Porsche 911 turbo, and he would always be, Marty, can I drive your Porsche? Can I drive your Porsche? And I'd be, Max, no. Like, we still have the season, and I don't want you to get hurt. Like, that's what I was worried. And then at the end of the season, one day, I'm like, okay, you go ahead, but I'm not going in. And one of the other Russian guys, Dmitry Kalinin, got in the car with him. And when he came back, Dmitry was white, and I think he may have peed himself a little bit. So, yeah, so Max was not only fast on the ice, but he was fast everywhere, like driving and all of that. So that was on my team. I can, maybe it's cliche, but I can remember my first NHL win was against the Dallas Stars and Mike Modano. When Mike Modano got the puck, or when you saw him, like the play's on the left side and you're keeping, and then all of a sudden you see Modano coming down the other side, you're like, oh boy, like it was so fast, right? But for Beck Malenstein, this is really cool because I don't know if you saw the actual play that happened.
Yes.
It was one of those
trying to beat out an ice in. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of went so straight down the right side. There was a dump in. He got there. Like, it's really cool. And he was flying on that play. And I'm like, okay, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, like all these skaters and Beck Malin, they're going to have to invite him to the All-Star game next year so he can do a fast lap around the rink just to see if he is the fastest.
Marty, I touched on it a little bit, but I really do. I'm curious the fan reaction in Buffalo because we talk about that Tampa Buffalo game, and everybody in the NHL was talking about that. And I think one of the biggest things when we were doing media the next day with the Jets, not with the players itself, but just the media folks were talking, and all we were talking about were like the videos. Like I was watching the videos of people like were recording, and it felt like a playoff atmosphere. It felt so much fun. And like I touched on, when we went to the draft in 2016 in Buffalo, Ez and I, we had a great time there. Everybody was so welcoming, so nice. And for a fan base that has had to deal with 14 years of no playoffs, what's it like to finally have some excitement in the fan base again? They must be like coming up to you all the time and wanting to talk about hockey.
Yeah, I mean, even this morning I was out and about, and they're like, "Oh, big game against the Leafs tonight." But the Leafs games used to be like, the Leafs fans are going to come in and they're going to take over. It's not like that. I don't know what that's going to be like tonight, because I would assume Leafs fans have bought their tickets to that game a long time ago, and they may still be there. But I can draw a comparison with Winnipeg. I love playing in Winnipeg. The fan base was always fun. The building was always energetic. But now, I mean, this year it's not been great for Jets fan. Mm-hmm. Try to multiply that by 14, right? I mean, that's what it is. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I feel bad for you, Jets fan, that last year you had the MVP, you had the Vezina Trophy, you had President's Trophy, you had everything, right? But now this year, but try that for 14 years. But when it's going in Winnipeg and the playoffs and the whiteout and everything and the people in the street, right? And it's like, wow, like Winnipeg is awesome. Now, I think Buffalo, it's the same thing. Buffalo is awesome. And when the playoffs start and they have a home games and there is a party outside, it's going to be just absolute craziness, right? So it's fun for the fans. It's fun for the generation of people that were Sabres fans in the 90s and 2000. And now there's a whole generation of Sabres fans that, we missed. Mm-hmm. And so now, like, my kids are like, they're like, this is so cool. This is so cool. Like for the last 10, 12 years, there was nothing to be like excited about. And now it's cool. But there's people that have grandkids that are like, my kids never experienced this, and now I get to show my grandkids that stuff. So it's a very, very rewarding kind of crowd that we're seeing and community that we're seeing right now.
Marty, you're a beauty. We look forward to it. I think everybody around the NHL, if their team isn't in the playoffs, I think everyone's cheering for the Buffalo Sabres, given everything you just said. And it's going to be a fun stretch drive. Go ahead.
I got Jeff O'Neill like cheering for the Sabres. So I think that if I got O-Dog to do it, I can get a lot of people to cheer for the Sabres. Yes.
Come playoff time. Maybe we'll do a show. We'll get you and O-Dog and the three of us on, and we'll have some fun, the five of us.
Marty, I was going to say quickly, it's funny because I saw that folks were saying that for years Leafs fans would buy these tickets because they could actually get the tickets, and now they're going to be selling them back to Sabres fans.
It could be. Like, I'm going to be interested to see tonight if maybe they're like. Because now Sabres fans are like, we want that Toronto game, and fans and the Leafs are like, we don't want to go to Buffalo. So maybe there's a change around.
There you go. It should be a good one tonight in upstate New York. Marty Biron, one of our favorites. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too, Marty. Take care. All the best. Thanks, buddy. There he goes, Marty Biron joining us this morning. We'll take our final commercial break. We'll wrap up this morning, get you set for this afternoon's game between the Jets and the Avs, and the post-game show is still to come. Don't go anywhere. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. The show's presented by our friends at Play Now. Smash that like button on as we head to break, one final break this Saturday morning.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean A barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca. For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hey Winnipeg, Joe Carter here. I look forward to joining you in Winnipeg on June 4th for the Rady JCC Ken Cronson Sports Dinner. See you in June. Don't be late.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mindell and now just Dave Manouk. Ezra has
He's coming back.
Reappearing. I think there was a doorbell that rang at his house or something along those lines. I just something came across my timeline. I briefly want to mention it. I
had to go to the bathroom. I was going to pee my pants.
Okay, fair enough. We don't want you to do that. Thanks for that information. The Montreal Canadiens are healthy scratching Brendan Gallagher tonight. So teams can healthy scratch veteran players without it being a big thing. So maybe somebody wants to let the Jets organization know that you can healthy scratch a veteran, even a veteran that you've been loyal to and has been loyal to you for years, and not have it be the end of the world. So that's just some food for thought as we continue this.
And by the way, Austin Matthews is also done for the season.
Well, yes, we knew that after that terrible hit by Radko Gudas. I mean,
that
was a dirty hit. And I mean, I like that Matthews' agent went after the Department of Player Safety yesterday, calling them a joke because they are, because you got to defend Radko Gudas and not Austin Matthews. Can you imagine in the NFL? Like, again, this is the difference between the leagues. The NFL does everything in their power to protect their superstars, their superstar quarterbacks. The equivalent of an NFL superstar quarterback is an NHL player who can score goals. You know, that's probably, you know, if you have to compare the two, that would be probably a comparison. The NHL defends the goons and the Radko Gudases who go out and injure your superstars. Meanwhile, the NFL changes the rules to keep their quarterbacks even healthier throughout the course of the season. That's the difference between the two leagues in a nutshell, right there.
5 games not enough? Like, I thought 5 games was fair.
You think 5 was fair? I thought it should be more. He's stuck. This is a guy who's a repeat offender who's done this multiple times over the years. Whenever he gets beat, he sticks out a knee and tries to injure a guy that way.
The Americans sent him a gold medal for taking out Crosby.
That was at least a legal play. That one at least wasn't dirty. That's the only difference there. This one was a guy who's a repeat offender who saw that he was getting beat on the play, stuck out his knee. And I mean, I guess the Leafs and Matthews, I mean, I don't care about the Leafs, but Matthews is fortunate that it wasn't a worse injury. It very well could have been a completely torn ACL.
I agree with you that it was a dirty play. I agree with you that it was a dirty play, and Gudas has a history of dirty plays like that. But I don't know. I guess, Drew, what it is the I'm so used to. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that Desert Lab, or is it Desert Lab? No, it's Desert Lab.
It's Desert Lab.
There's only one S.
Yeah, exactly. I had to double check there. Sometimes I get confused, guys, because I get hungry. When there's an extra S, I get hungry. So.
John Ginsburg, math professor, not English professor.
Yes, and the math gene skips a generation.
Yeah.
The someone at work said that I look like Radko Gudas, and I don't see it.
Well, it's
the beard.
It's the beard.
The beard.
I mean,
Yeah, but
it's
aside
not
from
the
that-
on-ice performance. Let me tell you that.
I was going to say, I wish I made as much money as Radko Gudas. That would be nice.
Yeah, he's not fleet of foot, but he's a lot faster than you are when you're skating. But the beard is the similarity right there, and I can see where you're coming from in that front. In any event, don't expect any lineup changes for the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe Ville Heinola, they say, is going to get into either today or tomorrow's game.
I wouldn't think today. It's not today because he basically. We talked to Scott O'Neill yesterday, and he essentially said that he wouldn't go. Kenny asked him the question. I think maybe tomorrow you see Ville.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. We expect most of the same lineup today for the Jets, but of course there's no morning skate, so we don't know for sure.
And worth mentioning, I mean, I think we did on Thursday, but none of the injured guys are really with the team. I know that Neil Pionk skated before yesterday's practice, but they're on and off. So I mean, we'll see if Monday. Oh no, they're off on Monday, so we'll see Tuesday morning skate to see. Again, I wouldn't anticipate any changes, but just to see whether those guys are skating. So that'll be interesting to see.
We remind you to join us later on this evening after the Jets and the Avalanche for the Illegal Curve post-game
afternoon.
Afternoon, early evening, whatever you want to say. It's going to be about 5:30, 5:40 p.m. is when the post-game show is going to get started.
Starts at 6 o'clock, Drew.
Okay, fine, whatever. Join us later today. I think that's safe.
Thank you.
For the Illegal Curve post-game show where we'll talk about the Jets and the Avs and where everything goes from here. We thank everybody for joining us this morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Thanks to Danielle Bain. Thanks to Marty Biron. In case you missed either of those interviews, they are available with the instant replay on the YouTube channel as well as the podcast, which will be available shortly as well. We want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Of course, Play Now. They're our title sponsor. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Kelly Taylor is at Rumors this Saturday. Tonight, there's about 10 tickets left. Get them at rumorscomedyclub.com. And of course, Caroline Ray from Sabrina the Teenage Witch is among other famous programming. She'll be at Rumors next weekend. A few tickets left for that. Get them rumorscomedyclub.com. Also, big thanks to our friends at Holt Dental, City Place, Boston Pizza. We'll be at Boston Pizza on April the 14th. More information to come on that on the post-game show. The Rady JCC Sports Dinner with Joe Carter and Cito Gaston. And, of course, our friends at Wheatland Hockey as well. If you haven't already done so, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notifications on. We will be back later on this afternoon for the post-game show after the Jets and the Avalanche. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. If it's Saturday, it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll see everybody in about 6.5 hours' time.